ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
This is Cop Talk, talking crime, cases, and backing the blue. Now, here are your hosts, Captain Ed Mehmet and Detective Kevin Schroeder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cop Talk. My name is Kevin Schroeder, retired NYPD detective, and I'm here with my co-host, Captain Ed Mehmet. Say hello, Ed.
Hello, WABC podcast listeners.
So, Captain, assaults on NYPD police officers in uniform are up 25%. No one complies with the police when the police officer in uniform asks you to stop and he wants to speak to you about an issue or a crime that may have just happened, and there's no compliance. They just walk away, curse the cop, and keep walking away, and then when the cop goes to stop them, then that's when the problem starts. And then you also know when they get arrested, especially here in Manhattan, the DA's office, it's a revolving door.
Yeah, well, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say that a big problem here in the city and probably nationwide is these woke DAs. If they're not going to prosecute, what's the point of making an arrest?
Right. And, as we know, during BLM demonstrations, there was a lot of police officers who were injured, and not many people were arrested. And when they were arrested, they were out the next day. Meanwhile, the police officer was still in the hospital or outlined due to injury. And now with these protests, first of all, you need a permit to protest. For a demonstration, you do need a permit.
A demonstration.
Right.
Also, you need sound permits. See, that's what gets me. That there is a law on the books that a sound permit is required. And a lot of these people run around with the bullhorns, and nobody does anything about it. Now out in Staten Island, where you had a basic law-abiding community where they were protesting the illegals, the cops were giving the people a hard time. But when it comes to BLM and these other crazy groups, they back off. The PD backs off, is afraid to touch them. And another point I want to make is the PD should never give up the bridges. They get these demonstrations. They start in Brooklyn, and they should be contained in Brooklyn. What they do is they let them go over the bridge, they come to Manhattan, and they wreak havoc in Manhattan. And that is a mistake.
So what can they do about it? What do you think?
Just block off the bridges. Let them demonstrate down by Barclays Square.
Again, designated area.
Designated areas.
So if you have a permit to be in a designated area, say in Midtown Manhattan, how do you wind up going over a bridge and into Brooklyn and still demonstrating by the Barclays Center? And once the police start to disperse the crowd, that's when the problems happen, because that's when they fight back with the police and no one gets arrested and police officers get hurt. It's just a disgrace.
Well, I can go back to my days in the department when we had major demonstrations during the Vietnam War. The police department was more assertive, more aggressive, but of course they weren't limited like they are today.
You were on a job with the Vietnam War?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
No, there were many protests, and some of them, got out of hand, but the police department took very swift, aggressive action. Today, the cops are limited, like you said before, with they're limited with the chest compression law, the city not backing you up on the qualified immunity concept of law. So there are lots of things that are hindering the police from doing what they really should be doing.
I agree. I totally agree. Couldn't agree more. So I think the police officers, if they feel that they have the backing of the job, the boss is on the job. I mean, you're a boss, which I believe they do. And the backing of the city, which I'm not so sure about that. City council, we know they don't have the backing there. And the public, I think the average citizen, no matter what neighborhood you live in, whether you're on Park Avenue or you're up in Harlem or you're in Brooklyn somewhere, at the end of the day, all the good people, all the hardworking people do want to see police officers in uniform on post.
Well, they certainly do. The question is, how many cops are out there today? They're retiring in such large numbers. Assume we won't have anybody left.
Well, again, why is that?
Why? I guess because cops don't see any advantage of staying in the police department. They don't have any respect It's not a calling anymore. It's just a job.
Well, it's not a career no more. It's just a job. It's a stepping stone now to bigger and better things. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of kids I know young on the job who they're leaving the police department not to go to the fire department or Nassau Suffolk County for more pay. They're just leaving because they're so burnt out and done with it. Okay, anyway, to be continued. Today's guest on Cop Talk is Tom Chittum. Tom is the Senior Vice President of Forensic Services with a company called SoundThinking, which is actually the parent company of ShotSpotter. He has over 20 years with the ATF. He was ATF Associate Deputy Director, where he promoted Justice Department's adoption of crime gun intelligence tools and tactics. He is also a licensed attorney. Tom, welcome.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you guys having me.
So, Tom, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, your background, and also explain ShotSpotter to our audience as well. Thank you.
Well, sure thing. So, as you mentioned, I retired from ATF. I worked my way up pretty high in the organization. And one of the best things about getting to that level at ATF was I got to travel all over the United States, representing the men and women of ATF to lots of diverse audiences. And inevitably, when I did, people would ask about my accent. I guess you guys can probably tell it, too. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Just kidding. Just kidding. This is pure West Virginia.
I thought you had a Brooklyn accent. I wasn't sure if it was a Brooklyn or the Bronx, but okay.
I was born and raised in West Virginia. And as I travel around, I tell people that. I always hear snickers when I tell them, hey, one of the best things about growing up in West Virginia is from an early age, I already had lots of experience with alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. So ATF was a great fit for me. As early as I ever wanted to be anything, I wanted to be a Fed. I thought that meant I wanted to be an FBI agent. But one day my dad said to me, I always thought the BATF agents went after the worst criminals. And I remember him pronouncing the B. And later I would come to know that was like fingernails on a chalkboard for folks working at the ATF. But he was right. So I ended up working for ATF. I absolutely loved it. I found my calling there. I was absolutely blown away by the bravery, the incredible skill, talent, commitment, public service from ATF. And I worked my way through the ranks. And as I did that, I spent a lot of time talking about crime gun intelligence. So as you all know, the tools, the tactics, the technology of crime gun intelligence is sort of revolutionizing the way law enforcement can investigate gun crime. And of course, one of those tools is ShotSpotter, acoustic gunshot detection. And so as I was approaching retirement, the CEO asked me, hey, are you interested in coming over here? As you mentioned, I'm an attorney too. And he had a position that was sort of tailor-made, I think, for me, that I deal with ShotSpotter, its use in the courtroom, its use in prosecutions, in investigations, sometimes by defense attorneys. And so last summer of 22, I retired from ATF. I took a week off, went to the beach, and then I came to work here. And you mentioned the company name. So at the time I came here, the company itself was called ShotSpotter. And before I came here, I told the CEO if he had asked me before I came to the company, before I started doing my research, what I thought its future was, I thought it's going to be bought out. It's just a single tool. It's gunshot detection. That's all it does. It turns out he has a much bigger vision for the company. He always has. And the company is evolving into a platform of tools. So in addition to the gunshot detection, which continues to be a flagship product for us, we've got like a case management software. A lot of people don't know this, but SoundThinking runs records management for the NYPD. We have a subsidiary company that manages that case management system. And so we bought that a few years, and now it's available to anybody. But nobody ever thought of case management by ShotSpotter. And so it really was a time in the company's evolution to rebrand, to highlight the platform, the other tools that we have to offer, not just the gunshot detection, not just the case management, but the patrol management solution, the distributed database solution. And so April of this year, the company rebranded to Sound Thinking. The Sound Obvious is an homage to the origins of the company with the acoustic gunshot detection. And so that's sort of a background of how I got here and how the company got to where it is today.
Ladies, you'll end up shopping for your guy's deodorant, right? So try Degree's Original Cool Rush. You see, last year, Degree changed the formula, and men were mad. One guy even started a petition. So Degree admitted they messed up and brought the Original Cool Rush scent back. It's clean, crisp, and actually smells like someone you want to cuddle. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So toss one in your cart and find out why it's the best-selling men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory.
The #1 selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
We off? 30 seconds of carefree bliss.
Oof, like wind in your hair carefree.
Oh, like using Clorox Disinfecting All-Purpose Cleaner in the home carefree.
Yes.
Like Doc slobbing on the coffee table and cleaning it with Clorox Carefree?
He's on a roll now.
Spit toothpaste on the faucet?
You got it. You got it.
Peanut butter on the light switch.
Oh, spritz, spritz.
Spritz, spritz. Clorox, man. Clean feels good.
Okay, we're back.
Use as directed.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel? Or that white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
So, Tom, when did you actually join ShotSpotter?
June 1 of 22.
June 1 of 22, okay. And the history of ShotSpotter is basically, good?
Well, it started in the mid-'90s. It's a pretty fascinating story. It's a pretty interesting guy who is the star of that story. The company's founder, a guy named Dr. Bob Schoen, lived in California near Silicon Valley, and he could hear gunfire near his house. And it occurred to him that he might use the same processes that earthquake scientists use to locate the epicenter of earthquakes. He might use that same technique to locate where the sound of gunfire originated from. So he developed the prototype of what would become the ShotSpotter system, tested it, it worked, and that's how ShotSpotter was born. Dr. Bob is still involved in the company today. The guy's mind never stops working, and he's always been committed to the idea that the best use of technology is for public good. And so it's pretty fascinating. But the company's been around pushing up on 30 years now.
Tom, just something anecdotal. You mentioned before the New York City Police Department case management system. When I was in the department, I developed a manual case management system for my local detective squad, which was eventually adapted citywide by the police department. So I was very proud of that. And for that, I got a special award. And then during my retirement, I was asked to consult on the development of the computerized system, which I didn't realize was yours. I didn't know the name of the company. So I did some consulting work based on my experience when I was in the department on how to set this thing up. So I just learned something new from you, that your company is the company that developed the computerized case management system for the police department.
Yeah. Well, we bought the company that did it several years ago, so now we own it. The company that developed it and the one that you probably worked with wasn't necessarily part of this company at the time, but it really is a terrific product. And, you know, there's so much, especially today, when there is a seemingly endless supply of information that investigators have to organize and sort through and share with their prosecution team, or risk a discovery violation that somehow harms a prosecution. You really do have to be organized, and technology is really doing a lot to that. Of course, NYPD sets the gold standard there, and so it's a great thing for us as a company to be able to offer that same product in a generic form to really any organization that needs to track cases.
And I guess it could be meshed in with the ShotSpot product also.
Well, that's exactly right. And then that's the idea of having a platform, right? That we have all of these tools, but that they work in concert. So when a ShotSpotter alert goes off and tells the police, hey, gunfire just occurred here, already it's integrated with the lead generation database, so you can start running queries on things that have occurred in that same location, vehicles or people that are found there. You've got a case management system that can start tracking all of the data that you capture, that you collect. And then when you make arrests and it's time for prosecution, that entire package can be seamlessly transmitted to prosecution. So it is a platform, and it's evolving. And I think all of law enforcement is working through this progress of using technology to harness all of our greatest assets.
Can you tell our audience a little more about how it works from a technical aspect, from the beginning of a shot, and, how the information is conveyed to the police?
Yeah. So it's funny. I tell people, if you had asked me before I came to this company how ShotSpotter worked, my best guess would have been magic. It just seems like magic, right? A gun is fired, and within 1 minute, this company can tell you where it was fired. But it's not magic. It's math, and it's science, and it's technology, and it's harnessed for public good, but it's not actually very complicated. At least at a basic level. When you start to look at how the system works, it's incredibly complicated. We've got people with gigantic brains. You can see the steam coming off their heads when they think. But basically, when a gun is fired, the sound travels out in all directions. And we know how fast sound travels. And it hits our sensors that are spread over an area at different times. So it'll reach one sensor slightly faster than another sensor and slightly faster than another sensor. And then calculating the time difference of arrival, we can tell you where that gunfire originated from. We can do it very quickly. And then we transmit that information to our customers, the police, so that they can respond quickly and precisely. And there's a lot of benefits of this technology over what some people assume 911 does. And I'm happy to talk about all of that too. But in a nutshell, that's how the technology works. Our sensors detect the arrival of sound at various sensors, calculate the time difference of arrival, and that's where the gunfire started.
Yeah. Well, how do you deal with false positives? Let's say a truck or a car goes by and there's a backfire. Or maybe somebody throws a firecracker or something. That's an explosion. How does it react? How does ShotSpotter react to that?
So that's a great question. So our system is attuned to loud, impulsive sounds, bangs, booms, or pops. And so if you went outside and slammed your car door, that would make an impulsive sound. But it's not going to be loud enough to reach 3 or more sensors. Our sensors are spread out over a large area, and only when 3 or more detect the same loud, impulsive sound is the system triggered. You could go outside and scream at the top of your lungs, and you might reach some of our sensors, but that's not a loud, impulsive sound. That's not impulsive. only when a loud impulsive sound reaches 3 or more. And so that means it has to be loud enough to travel a certain distance. And I mentioned that sound travels in all directions at the same speed. Sound propagates omnidirectional, or it spreads out in all directions, like a giant bubble expanding. But the way that gunfire is made, it tends to be very directional. And so sometimes people mistakenly believe that our reviewers only use their ears to distinguish. So I should back up. Our system operates automatically, where the sensors detect it, goes through a process of calculating where it starts from. And then we use a algorithm to filter out sounds that are not likely gunfire. Occasionally, the company is accused of being secretive, but it's not secretive. We're a publicly traded company, and a lot of the information about what we do is publicly available in things like patent filings. And so you can go and read the patent about the process that we use to filter out these sounds. Once the system has filtered out sounds it thinks are not gunfire, not characteristic of gunfire, they all go to human reviewers. And our human reviewers are the last step before an alert is published. So I mentioned that they also use their ears, but they don't only use their ears. So they're looking at sensor participation. What's the shape of the sensors that detected it, because the gunfire tends to be directional? What's the distance to the furthest sensor that detected it, because the sound of gunfire will travel further than a firecracker? They'll look at situational factors. If it's 3 a.m., it's not likely road construction. And they'll also listen for acoustic characteristics. They'll listen for the cadence of gunfire, consistent, steady pulse strength. And they'll listen for things that suggest it's not gunfire, like firecrackers with inconsistent pulses, overlapping pulses, whistling, sizzling, popping that comes from like bottle rockets and stuff like that. And using all of these techniques and others, we publish our alerts. We give all of our customers a financial incentive to let us know when we get it wrong. We give them a discount if we don't meet the high standards that we set. And when they provide us this feedback, we use it to make sure that the system's operating well. And analyzing data across all of our customers for many years, we know our accuracy rate is about 97%. A small fraction of those are false positives. A slightly bigger but still small fraction are false negatives. The fact of the matter is sometimes we miss gunfire too. And there are a number of reasons why that can be. We set certain standards for our system. The gunfire that's outdoors, because gunfire that happens in an enclosure like a car or in a house may not be loud enough to reach our sensors. Small caliber firearms might not. Anyways, to your question, Ed, our accuracy rate is very high. And I think that's the reason that you see us with an incredible customer retention rate, because police agencies across the country depend on us to give them timely information about gunfire that happens in their area of operation.
I was going to ask you, how many police agencies have participated, are participating in your program?
150 and growing. More than 150. When we get to 175, I'll say 175 and growing. It's getting pretty close to that right now.
Is that worldwide, or is that just the States?
Well, it is worldwide. It's mostly the States. Overwhelmingly, our customer base are domestic law enforcement agencies, mostly cities. We do have a few international customers. We also have some security customers, like college campuses and manufacturing facilities, right? The way they use our system is a little bit different. They are primarily concerned about low-frequency, high-consequence events. If a shooting happens on this campus, we need to know immediately and where. But the best value, the greatest use of this product is in places where gunfire goes unreported. And you guys being cops, you know this, but a lot of people are surprised that so much gunfire goes unreported in urban areas. We know from research and our own experience that it's about 80%, sometimes more, goes unreported. And that's for a number of reasons. It's because some communities have resigned themselves to living with it, or they fear retaliation if they're seen calling it in, or they're just not sure if what they heard was gunfire or where it was, and so they don't want to call and just say, I heard something, but I can't tell you more than that.
Well,
so we fill that gap.
Well, that sounds like the 75th precinct in Brooklyn, where I spent the year. If you're familiar with that precinct, it's the largest in the city of New York, and the gunshots were going off all the time. We didn't know if it was gunshots, backfires, or whatever, but you're right. The people got used to it.
They do, and they live with it, and that's pretty sad. But besides that, I mean, it makes it hard for cops to respond to. You know, it's like, let's say on those rare occasions where someone does call 911, I heard something sound like gunfire somewhere. What do? You drive around just hoping you come across a gunshot wound victim? What if you drive through the crime scene? What if you don't find them because they're in the backyard? And so we offer a different approach. We'll tell you right where it was. You can go right there.
Yeah, what about privacy concerns? Are there any?
Well, there are some. People raise them. We were concerned about that enough ourselves that we sought an independent audit by actually New York University Law School's policing project. And their conclusion was that our system poses a low risk to individual privacy. And the report is publicly available, and they had full access to our all of our policies and our information. You can read it on the Policing Project's website. You can find it on our website. I can send it to you guys. You guys can post it with your show. But for the same reasons that they concluded that, cities like San Francisco and Oakland that have privacy commissions have also concluded the same thing. And they've endorsed using ShotSpotter in their area of operations. As a company, we try to be transparent about that. I personally believe that adoption of this sort of technology should have informed input, especially from the communities that are most likely to be impacted. It's the reason we show up at community meetings, why we engage with the media, even when they're not always fair with us, because we think, look, the value of this is incredible. A little bit of understanding goes a long ways towards addressing the misunderstandings.
Hey, Tom, any specific cases of ShotSpotter helping out law enforcement?
Well, so it's interesting you asked that. First of all, when I was at ATF, I mentioned before, I spent a lot of time talking about crime gun intelligence. Right. And the research shows consistently jurisdictions that use ShotSpotter and follow best practices increase significantly the amount of ballistic evidence they capture, the casings that are left behind at shootings. Of course, ballistic imaging like NIBIN is changing how cops can investigate gun crimes. And so there's probably an untold number of cases that have been helped because police have found casings that they might not have without ShotSpotter. But it's a little bit different working here in a private company than it was being on the other side of the yellow tape as an investigator. So here at ShotSpotter, so I'm thinking when we publish ShotSpotter alerts, for us, they mostly go into the ether. And we don't know if it's a homicide on the other end or celebratory gunfire. We push them to our customers, and then it's up to them. We can tell them the what, the when, and the where. We can't tell them the who, so they have to go and investigate. But occasionally we do get reports back to us in at least a couple of ways. First of all, officer-involved shootings. And they're so important to us as a company that every officer-involved shooting that comes in, the executive team's immediately notified. And then our forensics unit produces a detailed forensic report. That's a forensic analysis done by some of our experts here of the same thing that the system detects automatically. But by having an expert manually reproduce a report, they can then go to court and testify about it. So we automatically produce one of those for officer-involved shootings. But we also produce them for like routine prosecutions. If a prosecutor wants to use ShotSpotter evidence at court, we can produce a detailed forensic report to show things like the where, the number of rounds, the timing, that sort of thing. And so the answer to your question is, yeah, there's lots of cases. I would not be able to point to one specific one right now. Actually, no, that's not true. Let me give you one other example.
Oh, great.
Since you asked, Kevin.
Great.
You may remember a couple of months ago now, a terrible shooting in Jacksonville. active shooter goes into a Dollar General and starts shooting people, black people. He wants to kill people because of their race.
Right.
ShotSpotter detected that shooting and alerted the sheriff's office 2 minutes faster, nearly 2 minutes faster than the soonest 911 call that came in. And as you all know, a lot of active shooter situations only end when either police arrive and shoot the shooter, or the shooter kills himself. And I think that that's what happened in this case. And so the police are there 2 minutes earlier, at least, than they might have been without ShotSpotter. Even though that case ends with this gunman killing himself, the community still wants answers. They want to know. And if you watch the press conference, the sheriff, the ShotSpotter information allows them to fix the timing. At this time, at this place, these shots occurred. At this time, this place, these shots occurred. And so the tool has a lot of applicability for law enforcement in lots of different ways.
What's the effectiveness of ShotSpotter versus non-ShotSpotter outcomes?
Well, so we have research that shows when a ShotSpotter alert comes in and when a 911 alert comes in on the same shooting, remember that 911 calls are about only 20% of the shootings. So we detect about 4 times more, roughly 5 times more shots than just 911. But when they both come in, on those occasions where there's both a ShotSpotter alert and a 911 call, research shows that ShotSpotter is minutes faster and hundreds of feet more accurate. And that's really important. I mean, when you're talking about gunfire in urban areas, time is of the essence. And when I was at ATF, I mostly thought about investigating, arresting, and prosecuting people for gun offenses. It never really occurred to me, even though it seems so obvious now, hey, there's other uses for this tool as well. And probably the most important one is locating gunshot wound victims. So when 4 out of 5 shootings go unreported, that's 4 out of 5 potential occasions where a gunshot wound victim needs aid and is not getting it. And as one stark example of that, in a single year in Oakland, California, ShotSpotter alerted police to more than 100 gunshot wound victims where there was no 911 call. That's a lot of people that wouldn't have gotten aid without ShotSpotter. And so, of course, arresting offenders is important. Collecting ballistic evidence is important. But timely rendering aid to gunshot wound victims, saving lives, that's more important.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country. Anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. Goldbelly ships Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garden's famous cakes. So, if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's goldbelly.com, promo code GIFT.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, streaming now only on Netflix.
Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at StitchFix.com.
Tom, what are the future plans for ShotSpotter? Any future plans?
Yeah, well, we continue to do what we've been doing for 20 plus years, which is letting police know about the gunfire that occurs in our area. The company's coverage area continues to grow as more and more police agencies see it as a vital part of their strategy for addressing gun violence. As a company, we are expanding. We're adding new tools to our portfolio. We recently added a weapons detection system using technology to speed up the processing of all the information that we have, automating some of those functions that in the past have taken incredible amounts of manual effort, and making it faster, making police more efficient and also fairer, bringing more transparency to what it is police are doing.
Tom, can you let our audience know how they can contact you?
Well, the easiest way is to go to our website, soundthinking.com, SoundThinking, Sound of Thinking. You can actually go there. We've got helpful videos that explain how our technology works, talks about the different platforms. They can always go there. Just hit contact us and reach out. If somebody has questions about how the system works, where we're deployed, how they can get some ShotSpotter in their community, we'd be happy to talk to them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom. Captain?
Well, it's been a very interesting interview, and I've learned a lot more about ShotSpotter than I knew in the past. It was put into effect in the New York City Police Department just about the time I retired it, and I can recall the problems in the beginning were the false positives, but I guess that's been refined to this date. Anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah, Captain, I appreciate it. It's interesting. We did have a business change about 2011. I can talk about it at length, but it really changed how we were reviewing our alerts and increased our performance considerably.
Well, thank you, Tom. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Chittum was our guest today. Thank you, Tom, for being on another episode of Cop Talk. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, and you can follow us on Twitter at Cop Talk WABC. That's at Cop Talk WABC. Until next time, be safe out there. Thank you.